All right, everyone, let's get started. This year, 2022, perhaps more than any year in the recent political history of this country, the contest for the presidential seat is not having this keenly contested. So much is coming to the game already, and the heat is getting to a fever pitch. The agitations for an Igbo presidency was what perhaps opened the conversation about 2 years ago before the issue of party contests and the issues of how to solve the challenges of the country, in fact, came into the fray. Tonight, we'll be speaking with one of the presidential hopefuls. He's one of the earliest leaders of the National Assembly of the Fourth Republic. He was elected president of the Senate in August 2000 after Chuba Okadigbo was impeached. He was in that seat till 2023. He didn't seek re-election into the National Assembly. He was a senator at the time representing Ebonyi South Senatorial District. Anyim was a candidate in the elections for chairmanship of the PDP in January 2008. Well, Victor Ogbulafo eventually emerged as the PDP chairman then. He later became the secretary of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation under the Goodluck Jonathan administration. The position he held until the Jonathan political party, then PDP, was defeated out of power in 2015 election. Tomorrow, Pius Anyim will be 61 years. The former Senate President and former SGF, Senator Pius Anyim, joins us tonight on the program. Distinguished, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and it's good to have you. I don't know if it's proper to say happy birthday because I know 19th of February is your birthday, but happy birthday in advance, should one say. But let's begin the conversation. I'd like to go back. A lot of people might have forgotten a few of the issues that have come up in your political career. Some of the tough situation that you have had to go through as a politician, way back into the Senate, your opposition to former President Olusegun Obasanjo, your position against your the former Governor Sam Egu, your position when you wanted to run for the chairmanship seat of the party. But let's pick this one after the other. I'd like to open the conversation so that we can know your thought. Perhaps first time hearing you in a long time on some of these issues. First and foremost, big lesson from your stand and the Senate against former President Olusegun Obasanjo at that time. What lesson would you say you can take away from that situation at the time?
Shegu, first and foremost, let me very well receive the happy news. Still in order, whether in advance or you simply wish me a happy birthday. It's a few hours to my 61st birthday. So I think I have started for some time now receiving the good wishes. So thank you for giving me one. Then two, it appears your basket is very full this night. you have tracked me from left and right. Very well, I'm here for you. And if you like, expand your basket and I'm ready for you. Well, let me say that I did not have any personal issue with President Obasanjo. President Obasanjo was a very outstanding president Nigeria ever had. President Obasanjo was focused and determined in all that he wanted to do. But we had a little disagreement, and it was the National Assembly and the executive, not Pius Anyim and President Obasanjo, simply because I was heading the Senate. It appeared it was between me and President Obasanjo. No, because what brought about the problem was a motion moved by Senator Idris Abubakar from Gombe. So it wasn't a motion moved by me or whatever. It was the action taken in the Senate that the former president was reacting to. And it was a friction between National Assembly and the legislature. And of course, being the head of the legislature at the time, I can't run away from it. I was leading the legislature on one side, and he was leading the executive on the other side. So there was nothing quite personal. And you can agree with me that there was a friction between the two arms of government, and understandably so, because at that time, we were still trying to understand each other. The democracy had just returned, and a whole lot of things were not done very streamlined and understood. So we're building it up. We're building it up. Of course, there were bound to be misunderstanding or disagreement here and there. And I think that was the issue. There was nothing very personal between me and President Obasanjo.
But, I mean, it was obvious that you didn't want to return because the heat at the time politically was obvious, isn't it, that if you do, because of the power, how powerful President Obasanjo was at the time, you were not guaranteed to return to the Senate. But what lesson would you say personally you've taken away from that?
Why do you insinuate what? Why do you insinuate what did not exist? When I was leaving, I made a press release, and I was clear. One, I had been president of the Senate and chairman of the National Assembly. I've gotten to the peak of that career. There was no reason coming back, because if I come back and I was not elected president of the Senate, I would be at the floor. And apart from that, if I have to come back, I should not expect to be elected as a president of the Senate, because the issue rotates. And when I was leaving, I said I believe in rotation and that our democracy was fledgling. For this reason, I believe it should go around quickly to the zones so that we stabilize our democracy. So what makes you think that is because of anybody that the election was in my zone? It wasn't in the national. So if you want to put it that way, you would even say maybe I was afraid of not going to be re-elected as president of the Senate. Then it can make sense. Otherwise than that, I ran election twice to the Senate and I won. Remember, I ran election first under UNCP, I won. And when many people who ran that election could not stand it again, anybody is coming to my zone to stop me. So I was clear I had gotten to the peak of that career. And it was not automatic that if I return, I will become president of the Senate. So why do I need to come back and remain on the floor? President Obasanjo is not like President Goodluck. Which way, one way or the other, you can say President of the Senate, David Mark, returned and became president of the Senate. Yes, it was possible under the leadership that was then. And you find out that the third time he returned, he couldn't make the president of the Senate, and it was a very difficult time for him sitting on the floor. So I wouldn't have come back after being president of the Senate and chairman National Assembly to sit on the floor for whatever reason. That should be hungry for power. And I didn't think I was hungry for power.
Okay, it's good that we are hearing from you. I remember how heated things were at the time, but clarifying some of these things actually just refreshes one's memory about some of the things that happened then. One thing that is very significant in your political career, which I'd like you to comment on tonight, was perhaps another landmark is a track in our constitutional development and, of course, our political history that one needs to mention. You've been someone in the National Assembly and someone who has been in the executive also. So you have a first-hand information about some of these issues. It was when the late President Yaradua was incapacitated at the time. You were one of those who spoke up evidently at that time about how the nation needs to move forward. There was an obvious lacuna in our constitution. The doctrine of necessity became a very popular thing to go for at that time. But as a nation, there's a lot of lessons to learn from that. For you, as one of the leading voices around that issue, what came out to you evidently and significantly at that time?
Shegu, I'm not hearing you. You are disconnecting.
Oh, can you hear me now? Let me just check. Can you hear me now?
Okay. I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Let me just summarize what the question I was asking you. I was asking the question in relation to the situation around when former president, late President Yaradua was incapacitated. You're one of those who moved that former President Jonathan, he was a vice president at the time, should be sworn in. There was a lacuna in our constitution at that time. So I was asking, what was a significant lesson for the nation that came out to you at that time?
Okay. I would say that the steps we took, again, I'm losing you. I don't know what is wrong with your system, but I have had your question and I can respond to it. I would say straight away that the steps we took were steps driven by patriotism. One, there was so much tension building up in the polity. And at one point, the then Save Nigerian group, even led by Wole Soyinka, went on a protest to National Assembly that something must be done to transmit a letter to National Assembly so that President Goodluck would assume responsibility in the absence of the then president. Now, the polity was getting so heated. The country was without clear leadership for a time. Now, the presidency was getting out of place, and the civil society was seriously pressing that something need be done. Certainly, I saw that it was taking a dangerous turn. And what I did was really not to just speak up as a person. I reached out to a whole lot of senior citizens in the country, and about 41 of us came together and said, look, we would not allow our country to drift. We have to save the country from this. And we held meetings and said, okay, let us articulate a process, a procedure that could be followed. Because it had happened in several places, just like in Israel then. I think the then prime minister also went into coma. Immediately the parliament confirmed that he was into coma. They returned, passed a resolution, and asked his deputy to take over. And I said, look, whether the constitution is clear in this matter or not, the issue is, the situation is clear that there is no clear leadership. And once there is no clear leadership, the definition, whether you like it or not, is that the president had been incapacitated. And what was the issue that need be done or addressed? It was simply the inability of the then president to transmit a letter to the National Assembly requesting the vice president to sit in for him for the period he was away. So we met all through the day, articulated the process one by one. And we sought appointment with the National Assembly. 41 of us, I led the group, but drawn from across the country, very eminent people. So we now sought appointment with the National Assembly, the House separately, the Senate separately, and we addressed them. And we said, look, this is not a matter of the Constitution is clear or not clear. It's a matter of vacuum that will affect the progress of the country.
Seems we are having some technical issues, an outage on the feed there. Let's take a short break. And when we come back, our conversation with Senator Pius Anyim will continue. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back. Let's continue our conversation with a former Senate President and former Secretary to Government of the Federation, Senator Pius Anyim, who's been speaking with us on several issues. Thank you so much, distinguished Senator, for your time. Let me allow you to just land on the thought that you were on the issue of the doctrine of necessity, as the case was at the time before President Goodluck Jonathan took over.
Okay. So, eventually, we resolved to approach the National Assembly, and I led the 40 others to address the National Assembly on what we think should be done. And we did address the Senate separately, addressed the House separately. and the following day, one way or the other, we wouldn't say we defined the pathway, but certainly we gave them a lot of boost, encouragement. And the following day, they followed almost all that we suggested and adjusted their own arrangement, and now moved what is popularly known today as doctrine of necessity. I can say for sure that the lesson I took from that is that this country belongs to all of us. Whether you are in position or out of position, when there is need, statesmen should rise to it. People who have benefited from the country should rise to it. I rallied 40 Nigerians plus myself, and we shored up the National Assembly. I think we strengthened them. Our address to them, I would say, strengthened them. And they did the needful, and the country again picked up. So I think that I am encouraged by that, to know that whenever it is necessary, whether you are in service or out of service, you should put the country first.
All right, let me take you to some very contemporary issues now. You were a leader, a very influential leader in the government of Goodluck Jonathan. Things went so heated politically towards the election that, in fact, some people in some quarters were saying anything else but Jonathan. How did things get so bad that in a government that you were a leader of, things became so bad that, in fact, afterwards, there were several probes against that government, asking questions on how that administration ran the country. In fact, the APC government accused the government of the PDP, led by Goodluck Jonathan and some others, that they ran the country aground.
Shegu, I'm losing you again, but at least I had you in part. I'm losing you, but I had you in part. What are those people who said anything but Jonathan saying now? Are you hearing me?
I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm asking you back. Those people that said then anything but Jonathan, what are they saying now?
Yeah, I mean, it's usually at the poll that you get to find out. But, I mean, the question is, how did things get so bad under your watch, and those of you who were leading the nation at the time, that you lost the trust of Nigerians? And so much that the government that came into power, they said when they came into power, they discovered that the nation was badly run. How did you run things at the time?
But, Shegu, I still repeat, what are they saying now? But I put it clearly. The truth of the matter is that some people thought they must grab power. And because President Goodluck was committed to his work, and I can tell you for sure that this had been a subject of our discussion with him while we were in government, where we will be clear in saying, look, let us also do a few things to make sure every person understands the fact that we meant well. But the president will always say, look, as the only language we need to speak to convince people that we meant well is the delivery that our government is able to put on the table before Nigerians. Mr. President believed that he didn't need any form of publicity. He didn't need any form of campaign. He didn't need any form of lobby. He needs to deliver dividends of democracy as the only sure source of earning and securing the confidence of the people. While he was doing this, some people now got together, ganged up, and carried smear campaign, blackmailed him, blackmailed the government out of power. And today, not only that Nigerians have seen the difference and have seen the truth, the same people are now looking for President Goodluck to come and continue from where he stopped. Do I need to say more? So in your own view,
Senator,
the truth is on the table.
that Goodluck Jonathan was performing optimally and perhaps he was the best at the time? Is that what you're saying?
Not only that President Jonathan was performing optimally, the economy was performing optimally, the social arrangement was much far better, performing optimally, the political environment was safe and performing optimally. Everything around Goodluck administration was performing optimally. Compare it to what you have now and be the judge.
But what would you say is a significant achievement of your government when you were in office? What would you say is the standout significance of your performance? Of what legacy do you think that the Jonathan government gave to Nigerians at the time?
By the time the government, President Jonathan administration was in office, the Nigerian economy was fastest in Africa. At the time President Goodluck administration was in our office, you can travel from here to Kaduna and you will be safe. By the time President Jonathan was in office, I could go home without being afraid of anybody firing at me. By the time President Jonathan was in office, even you are at liberty to abuse him, at liberty to say anything you care, at liberty to go anywhere, at liberty to abuse the government. Shegu, don't ask me this question now. Be the judge.
So you think that the Jonathan government was better than this APC under President Buhari?
Just be the judge. Be the judge.
No, because I'm a journalist. I'm not permitted under the law to be the judge.
Okay. Okay. If you don't want to be the judge, at least. But Shegu, you are breaking. I don't know. This connection is not good.
All right.
I can't hear you again.
Let's manage and patch.
I hear you again.
Yeah, let's manage and patch up. I mean, within these minutes that we have. Another crucial thing is a lot of agitations on the issue of equity, distribution of power, and it led us into Confab 2014. You're one of those who made sure that setup, that the Confab held. But the criticism against the Confab and how it went was that fantastic idea to bring Nigerians together, but there was no technical or legal framework to make it work. Do you regret not advising or not ensuring that Confab had a workable post-Confab implementation plan?
Again, I'm losing you. Again, I'm losing you.
But I'm saying that Confab...
Well,
can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
If you can hear me, let me quickly just summarize the question. I was talking about Confab. And the fact that the criticism against it was that you did a fantastic job of bringing people together, but there was no post-Confab implementation plan. Do you regret not making that happen? Because the document is gathering dust in some cupboard somewhere.
Well, I am not sure that the problem was a lack of a post-implementation plan, no. Because after the Confab, the result was compiled. The president now prepared the report and forwarded to National Assembly. I remember within the period too that National Assembly was undergoing constitutional review. Eventually, they also articulated a whole lot of issues on the report and returned to the president for signature. But the time was short. And the president, in his own nature, thought that it was better for the incoming administration that will actually oversee the implementation to undertake signing off on what the National Assembly brought. So when the new administration came, the new administration did not think that they needed the report for anything. And of course, government should be a continuum. There was nothing wrong in what the president expected the new government, the new administration to do. He thought that, yes, I supervised, I pretended over the Confab, and the report is ready. I have taken the first step. Now the second step is on my table. But since another person will sit on the implementation, let that person take that step. And the new government did not think it was a priority or even there was any need for it. And so it stops there. We should all try to put the nation first. So I don't think the problem was lack of a post-implementation plan. It wasn't at all.
Okay, let's get into Pius Anyim now and 2023. A few critical questions I'd like to ask you tonight. First and foremost, let's clear the air. Are you running for president in 2023?
I am running, and I'll be happy if you pursue me.
Okay, it's
so
good
you are
to
losing
get
you
it,
again, but I had you to a point. I am running.
Great.
I am running.
So,
and I know you will vote for me.
Why do you? I've not even voted in the last 4 or 5 cycles of election because I'm always.
You are not a good citizen.
So, no,
you are not a good citizen. You see the problem with Nigeria.
But but I'm always at work on election and covering elections. But let's come to you, Senator Anyim. The question is, why do you want to be Nigeria's president?
Because I'm a Nigerian first and foremost. 1, because I'm a Nigerian. 2, Nigeria had given me so much that I think I should offer the experiences I have gained from serving Nigeria, the knowledge, my knowledge of the country by the vantage positions I have held in this country, and by the fact that I think I understand the challenges and I have clarity on what the solutions should be. I'm putting my credentials on the table, and that is why I think I should run.
So what, in your own view, is Nigeria's biggest problem at this time?
I think the problems had become hydra-headed. So you can't even single them, because the problem had huge political dimension, the problems had huge economic dimension, the problems had huge social dimension. So I think I know that if you ask some people, they will say security, lack of infrastructure, and whatever. But if you ask me, I will say the greatest challenge is lack of leadership.
So should Nigeria decide that it's Senator Pius Anyim that they want as their next president, should he be elected, in your first week in office, what would be your agenda or first thing to tackle? What would be your first line of activity when you assume office if you were elected?
Well, if I am elected into office, however, you are asking me what I will do in the first week. In the first week, I have to set up the structure of governance before I deploy them. So what I can assure you, that in the first week, getting to the second week, I will set up the structure of the government I want to run. I should make the necessary appointments. I should take the necessary steps to make sure that that appointment kickstarts immediately and everybody gets to work. So the first week in office, I should set up the structure of my government.
So since you're talking about a hydra-headed nature of Nigeria's problem, so how do you hope to tackle it? It does look complex from the point of view that you are right now.
I lost you, but
let me go again.
I heard the first part.
Okay, so let me ask
to
you, when I asked you about Nigeria's problem, you said it's hydra-headed. So I'm asking that, then how do you handle it? What would be your manner of approach? What is the solution to the hydra-headed challenge of Nigeria, as you put it?
I will take it segment by segment. On the political angle, I will build consensus on those critical areas and resolve them as a foundation for launch into the future. I will build consensus on the political processes. I will build consensus on governance issues and framework. I'll build consensus on political participation and inclusiveness. And if I go to the economy, I will refocus the Nigerian economy to fit into the new world economic direction. In other words, I will take into consideration the fourth industrial revolution and now articulate an economic agenda that will capture, that will stand on industrialization, talent and innovation, science and technology. I also know that we have vast, huge agricultural resource. I will try to mechanize it to fit it. I know that at times people, when they talk about agriculture, they are talking about AGOA and all that. If we expand our industrial base, the agriculture will produce both for local consumption and for industrial purposes locally. So I will focus, I will redirect our economy in this manner. And that will generate enough diversification, that will bring in the private sector to run the economy. And I am sure that that will take us out of the woods, both for export and for local consumption. On the social cohesion segment, I will be sure that I build cohesion based on equality, fairness, and justice. I will also be sure that I will pursue social and economic empowerment. And I will make sure that I will pursue inclusive governance and make sure that people get what belongs to them. So it's really not something you segment one by one. But I also tell you, there are certain enablers of development, or if you like, enablers of prosperity that will go hand in hand, like the issues of infrastructure, the issues of education, the issues of security, the issues of job creation, governance issues with respect to regulatory issues, like when you have private sector participation, government must be sure that they have strong regulatory framework to regulate the private sector. So what I will do, I will properly segment the problems, the issues, and address them. I have always said that when I talk about building consensus, I firmly believe, and from my experience in government, that if you just enter the room and generate a policy and throw it at the people, certainly it will fail, because you need the buy-in of the people for the policy to succeed. So the first step of building consensus is involving the people in the decision-making process, such that by the time they buy into what you're bringing out, people will zealously and wholeheartedly embrace it. Government is not just about the leader or a few people in government. The government must be the responsibility of everybody for it to make progress. You give everybody a stake in that government, and of course, that is what we talk about patriotism. And people will commit to it and make a success of your policies.
All right, let me come here, Senator Anyim. And there are two critical questions as to the political dimension of your ambition. No matter what it is, no matter how wonderful your ideas are, it still boils down to the fact that your political party needs to make a decision that will favor you to emerge as a candidate. First and foremost is the issue of Igbo presidency and the capacity of the Southeast being able to get a ticket of a political party like the PDP. Your party seems to have thrown it open. How will your chance look in the light of this? Does it dim your chance when your party has thrown it up and it looks so much that we have more northern hopefuls or aspirants in the PDP?
I'm losing you, but I have had you to a point. Well, let me say that PDP is a national party and not a Southeast party. Let me also say that all through my political life, I've played at the national level. I have never had any experience at the regional level. I've been president of the Senate right here in Abuja. I've been secretary to government right here in Abuja. I have made few interventions at national levels. The one you mentioned when this country was at a crossroad over the issue of the then president being sick and not transmitting a letter. And you also know that given the rising insecurity at a point, I wrote an open letter to the president. I have operated at the national issue, at the national level, and my desire and interest is at the national level. So there are people from the north, from the west, from the east, and all that aspiring to lead, to pick the presidential ticket of my party. I am putting my credentials on the table alongside theirs. And whoever the party chooses, I am a party man. But I believe that I have the right credentials, I have the right experience, I have the right capacity, I have the right competence, and I can compete with anybody on the table.
So, but what about the chances of an Igbo man? Is it time for the Igbo presidency? The agitation has been on for a long time. The North Central region will also say we need a chance. The Northeast will say we need a chance.
This,
but
why are you promoting this Igbo? Am I not a Nigerian, even though I'm from Southeast? You should not promote
is it not
this
a reality, Senator?
I am qualified.
No, but,
I am qualified.
But is it not a big question hanging over, as much as some of us don't like to have this ethnic conversation, but it's an obvious reality of our politics. You know, we talk about religion, we talk about ethnicity. They have characterized our politics. And so they determine it most of the times, except a politician wants to deceive himself or herself. And that's why I'm asking the question, is it ripe now for an Igbo presidency?
Shegu, in my little years in politics, are you with me? In my few years in politics,
absolutely,
President Obasanjo from Southwest became a president, not because Southwest supported him. They did not want him, they did not support him, but Nigeria chose him. Mr. Shegu, again in my little political life, President Buhari ran for presidency 3 times. Each of those 3 times, he will have a winning vote in major catchment areas in the north, but he will not win. Until he teamed up with the south. He now ran and he won. So, for anybody from Southeast, it's not the Southeast that will make you the president. You are not going to be a president of the Southeast. You are going to be a president of Nigeria. And it is my desire, it is my effort, it is my target to be acceptable to Nigerians. If I am acceptable to Nigerians and Nigerians voted me in as their presidency, as their president, it does not matter where I come from. And I have a record, I have a pedigree. You can look at my record and you agree with me that I have been nationalistic. And I don't think I am limited because of where I am from. If anybody is trying to limit me because of where I am from, I think it's a disservice to this nation. And I won't give in to it. I will aspire as a true Nigerian. I will aspire as somebody who has become whatever I have become in my life because I'm a Nigerian. I will aspire to intervene in the affairs of my country at a time I think my services are needed, as I have intervened before, even outside office. The Senate was turbulent. I became president of the Senate. I stabilized it. And for every reason under the sun, I am not limited from where I am coming from. I am a Nigerian, full-fledged Nigerian, with experiences across board, and I want to be accepted as the president of Nigeria across board.
All right, Senator Anyim, about 120 seconds for us to go tonight on this program, and I have two questions for you. The first, so 2 questions for you. The first being the possibility of your party winning this election in 2023 after having a bloody nose in 2015 and consequently again in 2019. Does your party stand a chance against the APC that is at the helm of affairs at the moment?
Mr. Shegu, did you watch the test run on the Abuja area council elections lately? That will tell you. Abuja council election right before the nose of the Federal Capital Territory. PDP was sweeping the polls, sweeping the polls, sweeping the polls. It will happen across the country.
All right, my final question would be a very big one that a lot of people are perhaps been wanting to know. What happened to the Centenary project?
Well, the Centenary project is entirely a private sector-driven project. And when the new government came, of course, nobody, and I don't blame anybody, because when we started that project, many people didn't believe that it's possible to do a private city. But by the time we went into that project, we told the world to have a feel of private cities in the world. And first was Dubai, which has a mix of private and government support. Second, the Canary Wharf project in Eastern London. And the Songdo project in South Korea. Songdo project in South Korea is now the biggest private city project. It's on a reclaimed land at about 600 hectares of land in Songdo, in southern part of Songdo. And we looked at it, and we saw that it is possible to do a private city at no cost to government. We reached out to the developer in Dubai who pioneered the development of Dubai. And he agreed to do a private city in Abuja. And we signed off with him. And they took up the planning and everything. That Centenary city was an improvement on Abuja. It was an improvement also on Dubai. In fact, the modern urban concept of concept of urban renewal is to support the old city with a smart city. And Centenary was designed as a smart city to back up Abuja. Everything went on smoothly, and on the verge of takeoff before the new administration. And the new administration, just like every other thing the previous government did, of course didn't see anything good in it, and they sat on it. Then the investor withdrew. So what has happened to the Centenary City today is that the investor, which is Eagle Hills of Dubai, withdrew from the project because the government was not providing the support they needed to provide. So eventually the government went through all they thought was not done well, and they discovered that there was no problem with the project. Now they are at ease that the project could go on, but the project can only go on when a new investor comes into the project. Because the project is not what anybody can just do. It requires a huge investment, private investment. There is no government funding in that project, and it's in the best interest of, Abuja as a city and Nigeria as a whole. So that is the story of the project. So if another investor comes up tomorrow, fine, they can kick off.
We need to leave it at that, but I must sincerely thank you. Consider this as the first phase of our conversation in your ambition and agenda for 2023. We'll see have you come back on the program, Senator Anyim. Thank you so much for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Shegu, anytime you need me, I'm here.